Good evening, and thank you for joining me. As always, I'm your foul player. Thank you for stepping into the foul play land. I'd like to thank all of you who have subscribed to me in the past and who actually watch my content. I just now surpassed the 25 subscriber marker. I think it's like 26 as of today. But nonetheless, I wasn't expecting to get 10, and I consider every milestone an accomplishment and it's something to be celebrated. So thank you guys for joining me. The people who like my content, the people who hate it, I'll take it either way. I wanted to do a video regarding Anthony Joshua's second U.S. interview here in the U.S. On the Jalen and I forgot her name. Jalen and Jacob show, let's say. I had something to that effect. But I just heard it twice. I heard like the long portion of it, which was like 6 minutes, and I heard like a shorter compressed version of it, which was like 3 minutes. It was the same shit though. In both interviews, it wasn't like one left out anything that the other didn't include. But within the video, I noticed that a lot of it was, like I said, it was pretty much rehashing the stuff that Eddie Hearn's been trying to pump into us since Wilder's been a potential opponent that people have associated Anthony Joshua to fight against. I think the message that Eddie Hearn's been pushing out there is not resonating as much. If Eddie Hearn is just the only one doing it, so now they're running out the same campaign and the same verbiage, the same, pretty much the same script that Eddie Hearn was running out for over a year, and now they're doing a Anthony Joshua U.S. tour, it seems, with and he's recycling that same garbage that Eddie Hearn was saying for the past year or more. Immediately, like the interviewers were like kind of kissing his ass, like talking about his 22 wins and 21 knockouts, the fact that he won 4 belts even though it's 3. I think he mentioned that rather than like the fact that he has the 4 belts even though it's actually 3. But they mentioned the Wilder Fury matchup, which everybody's talking about. And they talked about the fact that those two people who fought against each other in Wilder and Fury talked about Anthony Joshua ducking them. So I guess they put him his feet to the fire and asked him straight up if like he was actually ducking him, and rather than mentioning anything about whether he wants to fight them or not, like he mentions his own accomplishments, saying how much he's done like within 5 years and how little they've accomplished within the 10-year span that they've been fighting. Like he also talked about wanting to fight Wilder, but that he's getting a bigger piece of the pie if he does fight Wilder. He also talked about having the April 13th date in Wembley, as if he made that specifically for Wilder, which I mean, I've come to the conclusion that if AJ ever does fight Wilder, there's almost zero chance of it happening in the UK, like just because of the amount of money that they'll be leaving on the table if they ever were to fight in the UK. But he mentioned the fact that he wants a bigger piece of the pie, and that pretty much like an open invite for the April 13th Wembley date, which I think he's just negotiating or making a negotiation, like as far as having the upper hand with having the fight in the UK and them both making less money and him having a bigger piece of the pie of this less money. He's just making that negotiation to where Wilder is gonna turn it down outright because he could make more money fighting Fury anyway. Like, I mean, and just on face value. He also mentioned that, which is also more like Anthony Joshua double talk and talking off both sides of his mouth, if you will. He said that you have to knock out the champ, but when he beat Joseph Parker, his last championship match, that was actually won by decision. And it was a big-time snooze fest. The fight sucked. Immediately after, a guy that he already beat in Dillian White had a much more exciting fight against Joseph Parker. But he talked about like the Wilder and Fury potentially coming to a rematch, and that they should be fighting him rather than rematching each other. I mean, if he's already saying or mentioning, even before like they've sat and negotiated this time around, post their match against each other with Wilder and Fury, that he needs a bigger piece of the pie, and he's just talking things or numbers that favor him, that's not really showing that you're looking to fight somebody. That's just trying to show like that you have the bigger piss stream, and that you demand more, even though your accolades are comparable, if not less than Wilder's at this time, and less than Fury's probably. You know, these dudes are fighting each other, and Wilder's fighting better opponents in the last couple years than what Anthony Joshua is. So I mean, like, he's going too much off the fact that the Klitschko fight with him was such a big event, but that happened years ago, you know, and like now you're running off that steam, like, and it's fading fast. But he said that those guys are almost like as if they're ducking him because they want to rematch each other rather than fighting him. But they've both negotiated with you. They've both talked bad about how like you offered them flat fees. I think the rumor was that he offered Tyson Fury a $8 million flat fee. We all know that he offered Wilder and a $12.5 million flat fee, and then he pushed it up to a $15 million flat fee. Both those guys are disenfranchised and are not like encouraged to deal with you from past negotiations. Before you even sit on the table, you know, you're putting this out in an interview for the public to see, like that you want a bigger piece of the pie. Like, you know, it's you're already like you're already giving a rehash into what negotiating with you and with Matchroom is all about. And at the end of the day, ultimately, I don't think he really wants a fight. So I think he's just gonna make negotiations tough to the point where they just don't want to fight him. He also mentioned the fact that he says he doesn't want the winner of the rematch, because they mentioned if he'd be willing to fight the winner of the rematch. But it's also like a lot of this dodgy like speaking that Anthony Joshua does. Like when they approach him with a direct question, he'll like make it seem like he's like real pumped, like but then his negotiations will tell you otherwise, because he said that he doesn't want to fight the winner of the rematch, that he wants to fight right now. I mean, you want to fight who now? Like, if immediately after on the Fury and Wilder fight, he was saying that he wanted to fight Tyson Fury. Before like that match, when he would immediately after beating Klitschko, immediately after beating Parker, you know, he never just called out Wilder outright. Like he always danced around that question. If not, he would call out Tyson Fury and then Wilder, or he would call out Wilder and then Tyson Fury. And this is when Tyson Fury was on the couch. Like this is when Tyson Fury was 400 pounds overweight. Like hadn't fought any of these tune-up fights before he fought Tyson Fury. I mean, before he fought Deontay Wilder. So he was calling out this version of Tyson Fury that was sitting way on the sidelines, that people didn't know whether he was coming back to fight or not. So I think it's more double talk from the Tyson Fury. I mean, from the AJ camp. The like, do I think he's serious with any of the, like, with any headway, like trying to make any headway into making a fight with either one of these guys? Absolutely not. Nothing has changed. I think this whole, like, U.S. campaign, it's the best that they could offer. They knew they eventually had to come and make their rounds here in the U.S. They knew that he would have to show face immediately after a Wilder and a Fury fight, and no matter what, like, this plan, they had to know that it was going to happen at some point, whether it be this past month or this past year or after, sometime after, like, his last time here in the U.S. when he came for that DAZN bullshit presser. And this is the best that they could conjure up. I mean, it's nothing, like, there's no committal, like, showing that he wants to fight. It's more of the same bullshit. Like, I mean, like, to be defending Anthony Joshua at this point, it has to be a full-time job. I mean, like, you know, you're reinforcing the same stories that and bullshit agenda that Matchroom and Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua have been pushing out for over a year now, and it's getting old. If there was justice in the world, I think that these guys would fight each other 3 times, and that fight could just get bigger and bigger. Anthony Joshua, his only foray into the U.S. could be against Big Baby Miller, who's a bum. He's a fucking boring fighter. His mouthpiece is the only thing that sells him. I don't think even people that are apologists for Anthony Joshua could reason that that's a good fight. He's also now talking about fighting Klitschko, who's been on the sideline for over a year. It was about a year and a half now. The same Klitschko who's about to turn 42 if they do fight. You know, and if anybody endorses that fight, you know, it's probably the same people that criticize the fact that Deontay Wilder beat a 37-year-old Louis. I hope that they do run this Wilder and Fury fight back in a rematch, and I also hope that maybe they could run that into a trilogy, and let Anthony Joshua sits where he's at now. Like, right now, he at this point, he's getting 0 from the U.S. market. If he fights Big Baby Miller, I can't see him selling out a big arena like Barclays, not a big arena, but these same places that Deontay Wilder sells out or nearly sells out, like the Barclays. I can't see him, Anthony Joshua, coming to the Barclays to fight Big Baby Miller, who's a resident of Brooklyn, and selling it out. So, and I think Anthony Joshua knows this, and I think Matchroom knows this. I think they don't want to bring Anthony Joshua into the U.S. market simply on the fact that it'll show that he has no selling power over here if he doesn't fight Wilder and or Fury. I think that would not have been the case had he made a foray into the U.S. market before, or had he made a real headway into fighting Wilder. But it's just a big time misstep by Matchroom and by Anthony Joshua. Whether that be because of Anthony Joshua's cowardice, or whether that be because Matchroom wanted to protect their asset and thought that they could. I'm sorry about the siren. But whether Matchroom thought that they could squeeze that lemon more and get a lot more money out of the British pay-per-view market, without taking taking minimal risk at the same time. Who knows what their reasoning is, but I mean, the picture for people who didn't appreciate the way Anthony Joshua and Matchroom was moving was honestly a little bit more bleak than a month ago, and now I'm very encouraged by the fact that it seems like Anthony Joshua will be the one being to a degree frozen out, and these guys could fight, and Wilder and Fury could fight each other and become rich and keep their names relevant, while Anthony Joshua is going to be known as the guy that's not fighting one of those two guys. So again, thank you guys for joining me. I'm going to try to make an Instagram page or whatever the fuck. I'm not really on the internet like that. As you can tell by the quality of this video, it's bootleg. I'm pointing it at like any blank surface. I'm not sure, I don't know how to record without showing my face, and I didn't want to show my face today. So I don't have my makeup on. Nah, just kidding. But yeah, again, thank you guys for joining me. I hope you like this video, and I hope you subscribe if you're a first-time listener. With that, I'm out. I hope you guys all have a wonderful weekend. Be safe out there. Peace.